Can energy healing be as powerful and effective as Western medicine, or even more so? We're going to talk about that in this series. I'm Krishanti with Krishanti.com, and welcome back to my channel where we always talk about intuition and spiritual and personal growth. And energy healing lends itself to a piece of all of that, because when you start to really activate your intuition, your innate inner knowing, healing becomes a part of that process. And there are a lot of different healing modalities out there. I've made a whole playlist on this channel about Bengston energy healing because it's one of my favorite methods, and I host Bengston workshops from time to time. Now, Courtney asked me to talk actually about how the healing feels and works, because I don't know that I really covered that. So in this part of the series, we're going to talk about how Bengston works for the recipient when you're receiving it, and how it feels when you're sending the energy. Now, in the other parts of the series, I'll talk about clairvoyant energy healing, emotion code, and another energy healing system I'm learning now. So the reason why I like Bengston so much is when I first heard about Bill Bengston's work, it was a lecture that he was giving, and he was showing evidence of his research in the lab using this energy healing modality that he created. So, first and foremost, at bengstonresearch.com, there are studies showing and proving that it is effective. So in one of the most famous studies, there were numerous studies about this. They treated mice with cancer, and there's step-by-step documentation of the tumors growing and then healing, shrinking, and the mice being perfectly healthy. There are also studies about the Bengston method on breast cancer, on COVID. There are studies showing how the brain activates, and actually there are studies showing what the brain of the healer and the brain of the healee do, and the kind of phases that the brains shift into when healing is taking place. So all of that evidence and research to me is very grounding. It's not like hearsay. It's like, look, we have factual evidence. Above and beyond that, people who have been practicing Bengston energy for years have an excellent track record for healing, and they really find that it works really well on cancer. So there are so many stories, and there's so much evidence that it works. Now, I've received Bengston from a hands-on healer. I've received it from distance, from different people. And what I can tell you is the first time I experienced the Bengston energy for myself in a live workshop that I took in person before the pandemic, the practitioner, who's really good at Bengston, and being really good at Bengston just means you practice and you just work at it until you're excellent at it. And this healer put his hands on my shoulders, and I immediately felt a really warm, burning sensation around my heart. And later on, I went on to work with this person remotely. And I was just asking, and here's the thing with Bengston is usually the energy goes to where the body has a need. It's like the energy has an intelligence and the body has an intelligence. And so I worked with this person remotely, and I would feel the energy coming into my body right to this area right here. And I didn't know what it was, but it was burning and itching, and like, what? And I had to research it, and later found out it was the ileocecal valve. So we did a few sessions, and it would always go burning up that area. And then I stopped, and I'm going to talk about that. It's one of the things I want you to stay tuned for to discuss, because the thing about energy work that a lot of people don't quite grasp is, while it can seem miraculous and sometimes incredibly quick healings do happen, it's generally speaking more of a long-term treatment. And so that can get really expensive really quickly. And what I'm seeing in the field and what Bill is working at too is that we can quickly get to a place where energy healing only belongs to the 1%, the people who can afford it. And what I think and what I feel is like healthcare is already very stressful in America. It's really expensive. And the energy healing I like to think of as maybe an alternative that is affordable. But as of right now, while innovations are being made that I'll talk about later on, most healers charge about $200 for a session. And most conditions, you're going to need more than one session. In fact, for long-standing conditions, I mean, it can take anywhere from a year to 5 years or longer. And think about that. Even once a week, it may not be enough. You may need it twice, 3 times a week. Very wealthy people can afford to pay for a healer at $200 an hour every single day. So it quickly becomes this thing where, okay, if you're wealthy and you can afford it, then you get to heal. But if you're not, you don't. And so what I love that Bill is working at is creating ways to make the healing more like everybody, it's accessible. So you don't need a healer to get the healing. I'll talk about that down the line. But I stopped the sessions because I was realizing, like, my gosh, like this could take so much time and cost so much money. Now, I ran a Bengston practice group for 3 years, and there were anywhere from 15 to over 20 every week of us working together in a group field. And everyone benefited from that. We'd come week after week after week because we're all cycling, we're all experiencing and feeling that energy. And what I can tell you that feels like in the group field is if you come with a need specifically, like let's say you just don't feel that good. This is an example. People would show up and be like, I have a headache, or I'm not feeling really good. And by the end of the call with everyone cycling, that tends to go away, or you tend to like feel a little bit better. So that's about how it works when you feel it. It's a burning, warm feeling. You don't really know how long it's going to take to completely heal, and that's one of the issues with it. But it does work. Now, what I want to stop and tell you here, that where this all blends in with what I teach, I host the Bengston workshops, but in my world, I teach about intuition and different types of energy healing. I'll talk about clairvoyant energy healing in another video in this series. But if you're facing an unknown, this is where what I teach, the intuition and the clairvoyance and using oracles and different systems can help you know, okay, will this heal me in a year? Will it take 2 years? Like, what am I looking at? Is this the right method for me? Is this not? And having that foresight, that insight, and that knowledge can really help you make more informed decisions, especially when it comes to your physical health and spending a lot of time and money on getting yourself feeling better. So Krishanti.com is where I have all of that if you want to come check it out. But let's move into now what Bengston is like if you have learned it and you're practicing on others. And even before that, I just have to say that Bill really teaches and believes, and I do too, that you're going to do a lot better if you learn how to do the energy yourself as well. Because if you look at the other videos I made, it's a complex system, but it really does help you with manifesting. So if you learn how to cycle and you put that you are completely healed on your own list for yourself, that will help speed up your healing time. It's also a part of the puzzle of not being dependent on another person to help heal you. Although we'll talk about this more too with the whole energy healing series. A lot of people say this and believe that it's sometimes better to have someone work on you to heal your body, that sometimes it's harder to heal your own body. It's just something a lot of people experience, but I do feel like there are workarounds. It's the same notion as that people say you can't do a reading for yourself. I don't believe that's true. So there are workarounds to that, and learning how to cycle can only help. It just helps. So let's say you're cycling and you're wanting to send energy or see how Bengston works for another person. So you can do it hands-on or you can do it remotely. And you know what is so much fun with hands-on is if you're cycling and an animal is around and the animal has a need, it will come up to you and put its body part that needs the healing against your hand and then leave when it's done. And people who are into Bengston say it all the time. There's so many stories of animals that would like have nothing to do with them, but once they learn cycling, the dog's like, oh hey, like I'm gonna lay down here, can you put your hand right here for a while? And it is phenomenal. It happens like all the time. I have to tell you this story of my cat. I was in a healing group. There are a lot of different cycling groups of Bengston. If you're interested, again, it's all at bengstonresearch.com. That's his world. But I was holding my cat in my lap when we were having a group heal. I was participating in another group session, a group healing, and I asked for the energy to go to my cat, and there were like 20, 30 people, and they all started cycling on the cat. And within 10 seconds, he was like, he looked around and he jumped up and ran away because it was so intense, like all of that. So animals feel it. You can see it. And this was remote, but it was so many people. But that actually happened recently with a friend's dog whose back was injured. We were co-hosting a workshop together, and there were about 80 people, and they had just learned cycling, and we worked on pictures of animals and people with a need, and that dog had not been able to walk, and he actually got up and walked out to the backyard after all those people blasted him with the energy. So animals really react to this, and that's also how you know like something's happening, because this animal like coming up to me and it's like taking the energy. It's so much fun, you guys, to see that. Now, the way that it works with Bengston energy that's different from the other types of healing I'm going to talk about in the other videos in this series is that there's not really anything spiritual about it, and you're not supposed to zone out. You're not supposed to have your eyes closed. You're supposed to keep your brain and your mind very occupied as you just cycle and run the energy. And that's because, and it's funny because it does match what happens in clairvoyant work, which is my world at Krishanti.com. The more your analytical mind gets involved in the process, the more it gets in the way. And then it starts to worry, and it's like, well, this tumor is the size of an orange. How on earth is this going to heal? Like, what am I going to do? Versus getting the brain and all that energy out of the way and just simply cycling and letting that do its thing, that with its own intelligence, and then the body with its own intelligence sort of meeting that, which is what you see in some of Bill's photos of the brain imaging and what's happening there when the healing is happening. So if you're doing a treatment on someone with Bengston, first of all, if you're doing it remotely, do something else while you're doing it. My friend John, who's a powerful, powerful healer, and I say powerful because it's like there's juice to it. Like he's got it on lockdown, where he just knows how to cycle very powerfully and very strongly. He'll be washing the dishes, taking out the trash, and healing you of cancer. Other people, I found success even just like cycling remotely while listening to music or while watching a show that's uplifting. I tried to cycle a long time ago. I decided I should see what the Game of Thrones thing was about, and it was so dark and negative. And I'll tell you this, the energy wasn't flowing when I was watching that. I was trying to charge water, and that's a whole other video. I'll talk about that later if I do another workshop. But you can charge up water and cotton and oil and different things, but the water wasn't taking a charge when I was watching Game of Thrones, because it was, I think, for my energy field, it was so negative and dark. And part of the juice with Bengston for me as a practitioner, and you'll have your own way, but for me it's something joyful, it's happy music, it's feeling free. It's not like feeling like I'm in church, it's not like feeling like I'm having to concentrate or heal. I'm just light, and then the energy just is light and it does its magic. Now, on the go, so I'm a mom, and what we do is go out and about with our kids, go to the park and everything. So a couple of times I've been with my son, and he's been with a friend, a different friend each time, and the friend got injured. So one time this little boy had a terrible fall, and his mom knew I did energy work, and I said, can I just kind of rest my hand? So he had just fallen, he was shaken, he was like in shock. It was a terrible fall. And I just kind of rested my hand very gently. And we were just kind of talking like quiet, just whatever. And after about 30 seconds, and this is the thing, we're out and about on the go. This isn't spiritual, it's just running energy. I don't have to like tune into my guides or sit there and meditate for half an hour or anything. It's just, okay, start cycling. And in 30 seconds, we felt this visible release. Like he was like holding tension, and then it was like, so the energy helped the body just relax. And it's fascinating because another little boy got hurt in a basketball game badly. And his mom, again, knew and said, it's okay, you can come over. And so I was holding an ice pack. So because there are a lot of people around. So you don't want to look like, oh, I'm doing hands-on healing here. Was holding the ice pack and just cycling. So here it is again, a whole ton of people around, the mom, the kid, my family, like everybody, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cycle, look around, talk. And immediately he relaxed. And I got to do that for about 20 minutes. And he said he didn't feel a lot of pain. So that was awesome. And what you see is, when you cycle on somebody, either remotely or in person, I feel like in person is so powerful. And I'm into the hands-on healing right now. I think there's been too much separation from the pandemic, and I'd love to see us all get together more. Hands-on, you really feel that energy, but remotely it can spin in too. So I felt that burning energy when John was doing it. I have Bengston running in the background for every reading I do. Even if I'm doing clairvoyant healing, I'll activate the Bengston running in the background, because people just say they feel better when you do it, and it's fun to do. So that's how it all works. I want to bring back though to the important part that I was talking about how do we get around the idea that, okay, if you're really, really sick, let's say you need a in-person session or you need a remote session every single day. I feel like it's the learning how to do it, and then getting and being a part of the community of like-minded people where we cycle for one another is the more holistic way to go about it. And it's such a beautiful way for us to get back into our grassroots of community and helping one another without having to spend all of our money. I think there's too much capitalism with healing. But one of the things I meant to say at the very beginning is I created the easiest resource for finding out if something will work at Krishanti.com. It's called a decision-making meditation. And you just listen to it and it guides you through. It's 30 minutes, but it guides you through a very complex, but easy to follow, clairvoyant and intuitive way of tuning in to see if decision A or decision B will be ideal for you. But I would do that, or even consult an oracle, I Ching, or tarot cards before deciding to work with somebody and spending a whole lot of money, And this is another big part of this that's very important with energy work that I have to say. Is if you ask somebody, like the people that I know who have healed from cancer and who have done Bengston. So I know a lot of people who have had it. I've worked on it with clients with cancer. They've healed. my father had it and he healed. But all of these people, they weren't only doing the energy. And I feel like if you have a very serious illness, chances are you're not going to put all of your eggs in one basket. So that also brings up this kind of feeling of humility. Like, okay, we know this helps, we know it works, but was it this or that or a combination? But humility for all energy healing practices, because you don't want to get that God complex or to feel like you're all powerful. When it's maybe the energy doing this work, or maybe it was the chemotherapy in combination with red light therapy and supplements and changing your mindset and right diet and all of that, all those factors combined create that healing atmosphere. The other thing that's really important, and I really wish I had led with this, I was thinking about talking about this at the beginning of this video, but I've noticed a couple of times this sort of miraculous last minute desire for complete healing. And it's when people come and they're already on death's door and it's like last ditch, like save me, save me, save me. And the hard part about that is sometimes the body's already transitioning and it's like raising the dead. And I wonder if you have to find out, and that's where the intuitive work I think can really be helpful. I'm saying this, I'll tell you why, and why I'm pausing, because I'm trying to think of the words here, because I want this to flow freely and be natural. But over the course of the past couple of weeks, someone reached out with a dog that was dying. And it was like by the time he reached out and we were starting to make the arrangements, the dog was really sick. And he passed away before we had the chance to start. But we were starting remotely. And when I say we, I asked a friend to help. This was our free pre-prep work. Okay, this sweet dog, this wonderful owner that loves this animal so much, he will do anything and try energy healing. So we started doing it remotely, and we wonder if that might have helped, if he was already like tipping towards the body was shutting down, helped him transition. And then a friend just had found out he had some very sizable tumors, and they gave him 2 to 4 weeks to live. And we weren't aware that he really did, we didn't know yet until my husband went out to see him. And when he went to visit him, he was like, I really don't want to die. And we're like, oh my God, okay, well then we got to start cycling on you. But it was so far gone, and like a big sized tumors and a few of them. It's like, well, I'm not God here. And we cycled, and what we did, and I brought in friends too, then asked for their help. What we ended up doing there with the intention was, if he's meant to live, like, let's help, like maybe that would help. If it's his time to go, that it's as painless and quick as possible. And he went fast. He passed away just last night. And my heart, this is one of the things you get into with healing. I mean, you think about it, and I think about this person who's young and had a very youthful energy. And it's like, well, death isn't always the worst thing. And in this case, he's so young and such a beautiful soul. I don't feel his energy around. I feel like he went straight into the light. And that is such a blessing. And also, I've been thinking about this, and it's like, well, maybe he was only supposed to be here for this amount of time. I don't know that I see him as an old man or going through those other years, those later years in life. So having that big humility too about understanding when, I think you gotta be carefully not to have this like savior complex, like of trying to save everyone, when maybe the most beautiful path is to not have to be here anymore. So it's big time. And again, coming back to whether you want to experience it for yourself in a healing, I do work on people and animals if you want to email me, but not very often. I prefer to like more teach about intuition and all of that. But I'd love to help if possible. But if you're wanting to be a practitioner too, what I'd love to say and what's really true is this is a great time to be into energy healing because more and more things are happening. More people are coming into the forefront of this energy world, and their intentions are to make it accessible and to get around that point that I was talking about where this could quickly become a privilege of the 1% and not holistic and grassroots and community focused. So Bill Bengston, who created the whole Bengston system, and another healer, Charlie Goldsmith, that I've been following, who had a show and everything, are really wanting to and working to, and they are doing it, bringing this about so it's accessible for everyone. Charlie's does all kinds of donation-based only group healings. So you pay what you can afford. Bill's got water and drops and cotton and sound. He's got all these different ways that energy can get through, which is a whole other video. But there is such a need right now, and there are so many different ways to offer the healing and to also make a living if you wanted to be a practitioner too, because it's you can do just wonderful things to help people that doesn't limit access to this type of healing to the 1%. So this was a really long video. Thanks so much for being here. And remember, at Krishanti.com, I can help you make decisions on what path would be the best for you. I also do Bengston selectively, like depending on like if my energy is good and I feel like I can really bring it. And that's important because I also don't ever want to make any kind of like false promises. You want to be really careful, especially when it comes to like someone's physical health, you know. But if you've experienced healing from Bengston or you do it yourself, I'd love to hear what your feelings are and what you've experienced in the comments. I usually ask about that earlier, but it's such a long video. I think that wraps it up for this one then. And thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you later.